The Happiness Trap, Stop Struggling and Start Living by Dr. Russ Harris, MD, read by Avicenna. Why is it so difficult to be happy? To answer these questions, we need to take a journey back in time. The modern human mind, with its amazing ability to analyze, plan, create, and communicate, has largely evolved over the last 100,000 years. Since our species Homo sapiens first appeared on the planet, but our minds did not evolve to make us feel good so we could tell great jokes, write sonnets, and say I love you. Our minds evolved to help us survive in the world fraught with danger. Imagine that you are an early human hunter-gatherer. What are your essential needs in order to survive and reproduce? There are four of them: food, water, shelter, and sex. But none of these things means much if you are dead. So the number one priority of the primitive human mind was to look out for anything that might harm you and avoid it. In essence, the primitive mind was a don't get killed device, and it proved enormously useful. The better our ancestors became at anticipating and avoiding danger, the longer they lived and the more children they had. With each generation, the human mind became increasingly skilled at predicting and avoiding danger, and now after 100,000 years of evolution, the modern mind is still constantly on the lookout for trouble. It assesses and judges almost everything we encounter. Is this good or bad, safe or dangerous, harmful or helpful? These days, though, it's not saber-toothed cats or 200 kilometers wolf that our mind warns us about. Instead, it's losing our job, being rejected, getting a speeding ticket, not being able to pay the bill, embracing ourselves in the public, upsetting our loved one, getting cancer, or any of million and one other common worries. As a result, we spend a lot of time worrying about things that, more often than not, never happen. Another essential for survival of any early human is to belong to a group. If your clan puts you out, it won't be long before the wolves find you. So how does the mind protect you from rejections by the group? By comparing you with other members of the clan. Am I fitting in? Am I doing the right thing? Am I contributing enough? Am I as good as the others? Am I doing anything that might get me rejected? Sound familiar? Our modern day minds are continually warning us of rejection and comparing us against the rest of society. No wonder we spend so much energy worrying whether people will like us. No wonder. We are always looking for a way to improve ourselves or putting ourselves down because we don't measure up. 100,000 years ago, we had only a few members of our immediate clan to compare ourselves with, but these days we can open any newspaper or magazine, switch on any television, tune in to any radio, and instantly find a whole host of people who are smarter, richer, taller, slimmer, sexier, stronger, more powerful, more famous, more successful, and more admired than we are. What's the fastest way to make a teenage girl depressed? Show her a fashion magazine. When she compares herself to all those airbrush, collagen-enhanced, digital ultra supermodel, she is guaranteed to feel inferior or downright unattractive. And the rest of us are not that different. Thanks to evolution, our minds are now so sophisticated they can even dream up a fantasy of the person we would like to be and then compare our real self to the impossible standard. What chance have we got? We will always end up feeling not good enough. And now, for any stooge-edge person with ambition, the general rule for success is the more, the better. The more sophisticated your weapon are and the more of them you have, the more food you can kill, the more plentiful your food stores, the better your chances are for living through times of scarcity. The more substantial your shelter, the safer you are from weather and wild animal. The more children you have, the better the chance that some of them will survive into adulthood. No surprise then that our modern mind continually looks for more money, more status, more love, more job satisfaction, and a newer car, a younger looking body, a younger looking partner, a biggest house, And if we succeed, if we actually get more money or a newer car or a better job, then we are satisfied for a while. But sooner or later, and usually sooner, we end up wanting more. This evolution has shaped our mind so that we are almost inevitably destined to suffer psychologically, to compare, evaluate, and criticize ourselves, to focus on what we are lacking, to be dissatisfied with what we have, and to imagine all sorts of frightening scenarios, most of which will never happen. No wonder humans find it hard to be happy. What exactly is happiness? We all want it, we all crave it, we all strive for it. Even the Dalai Lama has said the very purpose of life is to seek happiness. But what exactly is this elusive thing we are looking for? The word happiness has two very different meanings. Usually it refers to a feeling, a sense of pleasure, gladness, or gratification. We all enjoy happy feelings, so it's no surprise that we chase them. However, like all our other feelings of happiness don't last. No matter how hard we try to hold on to them, they slip away every time. And as we shall see, a life spent in pursuit of those feelings is in the main unsatisfying. In fact, the harder we pursue pleasurable feeling, the more we are likely to suffer from anxiety and depression. The other meaning of happiness is a rich, full, and meaningful life. When we take action on the things that truly matter deep in our heart, we will move in directions that we consider valuable and worthy. When we clarify what we stand for in life and act accordingly, then our life becomes rich and full of meaning, and we experience a powerful sense of vitality. This is not some fleeting feeling, it is a profound sense of life well lived, and although such a life will undoubtedly give us many pleasurable feelings, it will also give us uncomfortable ones such as sadness, fear, anger, and this is only to be expected. If we live a full life, we will feel the full range of human emotions. In this book, as you have probably guessed by now, we are far more interested in the second meaning of happiness than in the first. Of course, happy feelings are quite pleasant, and we should certainly make the most of them when they present themselves. But if we try to have them all the time, we are doomed to failure. The reality is, life involves pain. There is no getting away from it. As human beings, we are all faced with the fact that sooner or later we will grow with infirm, get sick, and die. Sooner or later, we all will lose value, relationship through rejection, separation, or death. And sooner or later, we all will come to face with a crisis, disappointment, and failure. This means that in one form or another, we are all going to experience painful thoughts and feelings. The good news is that although we can avoid such a pain, we can learn to handle it much better, to make room for it, rise above it, and create a life worth living. And this book will show you how to do so. There are three parts of this process. You will learn how you create and get stuck in the happiness trap, and then you will try to avoid or eliminate painful thoughts and feelings, and you will learn how to fundamentally transform your relationship with them. You will learn how to experience painful thoughts and feelings in a new way that will lessen their impact, drain away their power, and dramatically decrease their influence over your life. And instead of chasing happy thoughts and feelings, you will focus on creating a rich and meaningful life. This will give rise to a sense of vitality and fulfillment that is both deeply satisfying and long-lasting. Part 1: How you set the happiness trap. Chapter 1: Fairy Tales. What's the last line of every fairy tale? You got it? And they live happily ever after. And it's not just fairy tale that have happy ending. How about Hollywood movie? Don't they nearly always have some sort of feel-good ending where good triumph or evil love conquers all and the hero defeats the bad guy? And that's not the same hold true for the most popular novel and television program. We love happy ending because society tells us that's how life should be. All joy and fun, all peace and contentment, living happily ever after. But does that sounds realistic? Does it fit in your experience of life? This is one of four major myths that make up the basic blueprint for the happiness trap. Let's take a look at this myth one by one. Myth number one, happiness is the natural state for all human beings. Our culture insists that humans are naturally happy, but the statistic quoted in the introduction clearly disapproves this. Remember? 1 in 10 adults will attempt suicide, and 1 in 5 will suffer from depression. What's more, the statistical probability that will suffer from a psychiatric disorder at some stage in your life is almost 30%. Not exactly great odds, are they? And when you add in all the misery caused by the problem that are not classified as psychiatric disorder, loneliness, divorce, sexual difficulties, work stress, midlife crisis, relationship issue, domestic violence, social isolation, bullying, prejudice, low self-esteem, chronic anger, and lack of meaning or purpose in life, you start to get some idea of just how rare true happiness really is. Unfortunately, many people walk around with the belief that everyone else is happy except for them. And you guessed it, this belief creates even more unhappiness. Myth number two, if you are not happy, you are defective. Following logically from myth number one, Western society assumes that mental suffering is abnormal. It is seen as a weakness or illness, a product of a mind that is somehow faulty or defective. This means that when we do inevitably painful thoughts and feelings, we often criticize ourselves for being weak or stupid. Health professionals contribute to this process by readily slapping on labels such as you are depressed, and this label merely confirm how defective we are. Acceptance and commitment therapy is based on a dramatically different assumption. ACT proposes that the normal thinking processes of a healthy human mind will naturally lead to a physiological suffering. You are not defective, your mind just doing its job. The thing is evolved to do. Fortunately, ACT can teach you how to adapt to this in such a way that your life will be powerfully transformed. Myth number three. To create a better life, we must get rid of negative feeling. We live in a full good society, culture truly obsessed with finding happiness, and what does that society tell us to do? To eliminate negative feeling and accumulate positive ones in their place. It's a nice theory, and on the surface it seems to make sense. After all, who wants to have unpleasant feeling? But here is the catch. The thing we generally value most in life bring with them a whole range of feeling, both pleasant and unpleasant. For example, in an intimate long-term relationship, although you will experience wonderful feeling such as love and joy, you will also inevitably experience disappointment and frustration. There is no such a thing as a perfect partner, and sooner or later conflict of interest will happen. The same holds true for just about every meaningful project we embark on. Although they often bring feeling of excitement and enthusiasm, they also generally bring stress, fear, and anxiety. So, if you believe myth number three, you are in big trouble because it's pretty well impossible to create a better life if you are not prepared to have some uncomfortable feeling. However, in part two of this book, you will learn how to handle such a feeling altogether differently, to experience them in such a way that they bother you a whole lot less. Myth number four, you should be able to control what you think and feel. The fact is, we have much less control over our thoughts and feelings than we would like. It's not that we have no control, it's just that we have much less than the expert would have us believe. However, we do have a huge amount of control over our actions, and it's through taking actions that we create a rich, full, and meaningful life. That's why we say ACT as the word act rather than as the initial ACT. The overwhelming majority of self-help programs subscribe to myth number four. For example, many approaches teach you to identify negative thoughts and replace them with more positive ones. Other approaches encourage the repetition of positive affirmations such as everything that happened is for my highest good and greatest joy, or I am strong and able to capable at all times. Still, other approaches encourage you to visualize what you want, to vividly imagine yourself the way you want to be, living the life you dream of. The basic theme of all these approaches is this: if you challenge your negative thoughts or images and instead repeatedly fill your head with positive thoughts and images, you'll find happiness. If only life were that simple. I'm willing to bet that you have already tried countless times to think more positively about things, and yet those negative thoughts keep coming back again and again. As we saw in the last chapter, our minds have evolved over 100,000 years to think the way we do, and so it's not likely that the few positive thoughts and affirmation will change them all that much. It's not that this technique have no effect. They can often make you feel better temporarily, but they will not get rid of negative thoughts over the long term. The same holds true for negative feelings such as anger, fear, sadness, insecurity, and guilt. There are multitudes of physiological strategies to get rid of such a feeling, but you have undoubtedly discovered that even if they go away after a while, they are back. And then they go away again, and then they come back again, and so on and so on. The likelihood is, if you are like most of the human on the planet, you have already spent a lot of time and effort trying to have a good feeling instead of bad ones, and you have probably found that as long as you are not too distressed, you can to some degree pull it off. But you have probably also discovered that as your level of distress increases, your ability to control your feeling progressively lessens. Sadly, myth number 4 is widely believed that we tend to feel inadequate when our attempts to control our thoughts and feelings fail. These four powerful myths provide the basic blueprint for the happiness trap. They set us up for a struggle we can never win, the struggle against our own human nature. It is this struggle that builds the trap. In the next chapter, we will look at the struggle in detail, but first, let's consider why these myths are so entrenched in our culture. The illusion of control. The human mind has given us an enormous advantage as a species. It enables us to make a plan, invent things, coordinate actions, analyze problems, share knowledge, learn from our experiences, and imagine your future. The clothes on your body, the shoes on your feet, the watch on your wrist, the chair beneath you, the roof over your head, the book in your hand, none of these things would exist but for the ingenuity of the human mind. The mind enables us to shape the world around us and conform it to our wishes, to provide ourselves with warmth, shelter, food, water, protection, sanitation, and medicine. Not surprisingly, this amazing ability to control our environment gave us high expectation to control in other arenas as well. Now, in the material world, control strategies generally work well. If we don't like something, we figure out how to avoid it or get rid of it, and then we do so. A wolf outside your door, get rid of it, throw your rock at it, or spears or shot it, snow, rain, or hail. Well, you can get rid of those things, but you can avoid them by hiding in a cave or building a shelter, dry, readable ground. You can get rid of it a bit by irrigation and fertilization, or you can avoid it by moving to a better location. But what about our internal world? I'm talking here about thoughts, memories, emotions, words, mental images, and physical sensation. Can we simply avoid or get rid of the ones we don't like? In the outer world, we can do so fairly easily, so shouldn't it be the same with our inner world? Here is a little experiment. As you keep reading this paragraph or listen this audio book, try not to think about an ice cream. Don't think about the color of the texture or the taste of it. Don't think about how it is on a hot summer's day. Don't think about how good it feels as it melts inside your mouth. Don't think about how you have to keep licking around the edges to stop it from dripping on your fingers. How would you do? Exactly. You couldn't stop thinking about ice cream. Here is another little experiment. Recall something that happened in the past week. Any memory will do, whether it's a conversation you had, a movie you watched, or a meal you ate. Got one? Good. Now try to get rid of it. Totally watch or obliterate it from your memory so it can never come back to you ever again. How did you go? If you think you succeeded, just check again and see if you can still remember it. Now tune in to your mouth. Notice how your tongue feels, run it over your teeth, your gums, your cheek, and the root of your mouth. Now try to get rid of this sensation. Try to turn your mouth totally numb as if you just had a shot of Novocaine from the dentist. Were you able to forget the sensation? Now, consider this hypothetical scenario for a moment. Suppose someone put a loaded gun to your head and told you that you must not feel afraid, that if you should feel even the slightest trace of anxiety, they will shoot you. Could you stop yourself feeling anxious in this situation, even though your life depended on it? Sure, you could try to act calm, but could you truly feel it? Okay, one last experiment. Stare at the star on the star on the sky, maybe. Then you see if you can stop yourself from thinking for 60 seconds. That's all you have to do for 60 seconds. Refrain any thoughts offer from coming into your mind, and especially any thoughts about the stars. Hopefully by now you are getting the point that thoughts, feeling, and physical sensation and memories are just not that easy to control. It's not that you have any control over these things, it is that you have much less control than you thought. Let's face it. If this thing were that easy to control, wouldn't we all just live in perpetual bliss? Of course, there are few self-help gurus who claim they live in such a state all the time. Such people often get really rich, their books sell the million, and they attract huge following of people desperate for the answer. My guess is that many readers of this book will have already gone down that path and been sadly disappointed. How we learn about control. From a young age, we are taught that we should be able to control our feelings. When you were growing up, you probably heard a number of expressions like, "Don't cry, I will give you something to cry about." Don't express don't be so gloomy. Look at the bright side. Take that frown off your face. You're a big boy now. Big boys don't cry. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Don't worry. There is no need to be frightened. With words such as these, the adults around us send out the message again and again that we ought to be able to control feelings. Certainly it appeared to us as they control theirs. What was going on behind closed door? In all likelihood, many of those adults were not coping too well with their own painful feeling. They might have been drinking too much, taking tranquilizers, crying themselves to sleep every night, having affairs, driving themselves into their work, or suffering in silence while slowly developing stomach ulcers. However they were coping, they probably didn't share those experiences with you, and on this rare occasion, when you did get to witness their loss of control, they probably never said anything like, "Okay, these tears are because I'm feeling something called sadness. It's a normal feeling and you can learn how to handle it effectively." But then that's not too surprising. They couldn't show you how to handle your emotions because they didn't know how to handle theirs. The idea that you should be able to control your feelings was undoubtedly reinforced in your school's years. For example, kids who cried at school were probably teased for being crybabies or sissies, especially if they were boys. Then, as you grew older, you probably heard phrases or even used them yourself, such as "get over it, shit happens, move on, chill out, don't let it bother you, don't be such a chicken, snap out of it," and so on. The implication of all these phrases is that you should be able to turn your feeling on and off at will, like a flicking a switch. And why is this myth so compelling? Because the people around us seems on the surface to be happy. They seem to be in control of their thoughts and feelings. But same is the key word here. The fact is that most people are not open or honest about the struggle they go through with their own thoughts and feelings. They put on a brave face and keep a stiff upper lip. They are like the proverbial clown crying on the inside. The brightest pain, the curvy antic are all we see. It's a common in therapy to hear clients say things like, "If my friends or if my family, if my colleagues could hear me now, they would never believe it. Everyone thinks I'm so strong, confident, or happy or independent." Penny, a 30-year-old receptionist, came to see me 6 months after the birth of her first child. She was feeling tired and anxious and full of self-doubt about her mothering skill. At times she felt incompetent or inadequate and just wanted to run away from all the responsibility. At other times she felt exhausted and miserable and wondered if having a child had been a huge mistake. On top of that, she felt guilty for even having such a thought. Although Penny attended regular mother group meetings, she kept her problem a secret. The other mother all seemed so confident. She feared that if she told them how she was feeling, they would look down on her. When the Penny eventually plucked up the courage to share her experiences with the other women, her admission broke a conspiracy of silence. The other mother had all been feeling the same way to one degree or another, but they would all been putting on the same act of bravado, hiding their true feeling for fear of disapproval or rejection. There was a huge sense of relief and bonding as these women up and go honest with one another. To make a coarse generalization, men are much worse than women at admitting their deepest concern about men are taught to be stoic, to bottle up their feelings and hide them. After all, big boys don't cry. In contrast, women learn to share and discuss their feelings from a young age. Nonetheless, many women are reluctant to tell even their closest friend that they are feeling depressed or anxious or not coping in some way for fear of being judged weak or silly. Our silence about what we are really feeling and the false front we put on for the people around us simply add the powerful illusion of all control. So the questions: how much have you been influenced by all these control myths? The questionnaire on these following pages will help you find out. Control of thoughts and of feeling. Questionnaire. This questionnaire has been adapted from similar ones developed by Steve High, Frank Bond, and others. When the term negative thoughts and feelings is used, it refers to a whole range of painful feelings and painful thoughts. For each pair of statements, please select the one that most accurately fits how you feel. The answer you choose does not have to be absolutely 100% true for you all the time. Just pick the answer which seems to be more representative of your genuine attitude. 1A. I must have a good control of my feeling in order to be successful in life. 1B. It is unnecessary for me to control my feeling in order to be successful in life. 2A. Anxiety is bad. 2B. Anxiety is neither good or bad. It's merely an uncomfortable feeling. 3A. Negative thoughts and feeling will harm you if you don't control or get rid of them. 3B. Negative thoughts and feeling won't harm you even if they are unpleasant. 4A. I am afraid of some of my strong feeling. 4B. I'm not afraid of any feeling no matter how strong. 5A. In order for me to do something important, I have to get rid of all of my job. 5B. I can do something important even when doubts are present. 6A. When negative thoughts and feeling arise, it's important to reduce or get rid of them as fast as possible. 6B. Trying to reduce or get rid of the negative thought and feeling regularly causes problem. If I simply allow them to be, then they will change as a natural part of living. 7A. The best method of managing negative thoughts and feeling is analyze them, then utilize that knowledge to get rid of them. 7B. The best method of managing negative thought and feeling is acknowledge your presence and let them be without having to analyze or judge them. 8A. I will become happy and healthy by improving my ability to avoid, reduce, or get rid of negative thought and feeling. 8B. I will become happy and healthy by allowing negative thought and feeling to come and go of their own accord and learning to live effectively when they are present. 9A. If I can suppress or get rid of negative emotional reaction, it's a sign of a personal failure or weakness. 9B. The need to control or get rid of the negative emotional reaction is a problem in itself. 10A. Having negative thought and feeling is an indication that I would be psychologically unhealthy or I have got a problem. 10B. Having negative thoughts and feeling means I am normal human being. 11A. People who are in control of their life can generally control how they feel. 11B. People who are in control of their life do not need to try to concentrate their feeling. 12A. It's not okay to feel anxious and I tried hard to avoid it. 12B. I don't like anxiety but it's okay to feel it. 13A. Negative thought and feeling are a sign that there is something wrong with my life. 13B. Negative thought and feeling are an inevitable part of life for everyone. Okay, the more times you selected options A, the greater the likelihood that control issues are creating significant suffering in your life. How so? Well, that's a subject at the next chapter. Chapter 2. Vicious Cycles. Michelle has tears streaming down her eyes. What's wrong with me? She asks. I have a great husband, great kids, a great job. I am fit, I'm healthy, we have a lovely house, we are all well off, we live in a beautiful area, so why are not I happy? It's a good question. Michelle seems to have everything she wants in life, so what's going wrong? We will come back to Michelle later in this chapter, but for now let's take a look at what's happening in your life. What's your problems? Presumably, if you are reading some book or listen to this audiobook, there is room for your life to work better than it does. Maybe your relationship is in a trouble, or you are lonely or heartbroken. Maybe you hate your job, or maybe you have lost it. Maybe your health is deteriorating. Maybe someone you love has died or rejected you or moved far away. Maybe you are having a mental crisis. Maybe you have low self-esteem or no self-confidence or feeling inadequacy. Maybe you have drug or alcohol problem or other addictions. It could be financially or legal difficulties, or that you just feel stuck and don't know what you want. Maybe you are suffering from depression or anxiety, or you could just be bored with life and feel that it lacks any meaning. Whatever the problem is, it undoubtedly gives rise to unpleasant thoughts and feelings, and you have probably spent a lot of time and effort trying to escape them or blot them out. But suppose those attempts to get rid of your bad thoughts and feelings are actually lowering the quality of your life. In ACT, we have this a saying for this: the solution is the problem. How does a solution become a problem? How do you know? How do you do when you have an itch? You scratch it, right? And usually this works so well when you don't have even think about it. Scratch the itch and it goes away. Problem solved, but suppose one day you develop a patch of eczema, a common skin condition. The skin is very itchy, so naturally you scratch it. However, the skin cells is in this region are already inflamed and therefore highly sensitive, and when you scratch them, they release chemical called histamines, which are highly irritating, and these histamines inflame the skin even further. So after a little while, the itch returns with a greater intensity than before. And of course, if you scratch it again, it gets up even worse. The more you scratch, the worse the eczema and the bigger the itch. Scratching is a good solution for the fleeting itch in normal, healthy skin, but for a persistent itch in abnormal skin, scratching is harmful. The solution becomes part of the problem. This is commonly known as a vicious cycle, and in the world of human emotion, vicious cycles are common. Here are a few examples. Joseph fears rejection, so he feels self-reliance in social situations. He doesn't want this feeling of anxiety, so he avoids socializing whenever possible. He does not accept invitation to parties, he doesn't pursue friendship, he lives alone and stays home every night. This means that on the rare occasion when he does socialize, he is more anxious than ever because he is so out of practice. Furthermore, living alone with no friends or social life just serves to make him feel completely rejected, which is the very thing he fears. Yoni also feels anxious in social situations. She copes with this by drinking heavily in the short term. Alcohol reduces her anxiety, but the next day she felt hungover and tired, and she often regrets the money she spent on alcohol, or worries about the embarrassing things she did while under the influence. Sure, she escapes anxiety for a little while, but the price it pays is a lot of other unpleasant feeling over the long term. And if she ever finds herself in a social situation where she cannot drink, her anxiety is greater than ever because she does not have alcohol to rely on. Danielle is overweight and hates it, so she eats some chocolate to cheer herself up for the moment she feels better, but then she thinks about all the calories she has just consumed and how that will add to all her weight, and end up feeling more miserable than ever. Ahmed is out of shape. He wants to get fit again. He starts working out, but because he is unfit, it's hard work and it feels uncomfortable. He does not like the discomfort. So he stops working out, then his fitness level starts even lower, and there is a lot of built up tension between Andrew and his wife, Sylvana. Sylvana is angry at Andrew because he worked a long hour and does not spend enough time with her. Andrew does not like those feelings of tension in the house, so in order to avoid them, he starts working longer hours. But the more hours he works, the more dissatisfied Sylvana gets, and the tension in their relationship steadily increases. You can see that these are all examples of trying to get rid of, avoid, or escape from an unpleasant feeling. We call these control strategies because they are attempts to directly control how you feel. The table on the following page shows some of the most common control strategies. I have organized them into two main categories: fight strategies and flight strategies. 5 strategies for fighting without or trying to dominate your unwanted thoughts and feelings. Flight strategies involve running away or hiding from those unwelcome thoughts and feelings. Fight strategies: hiding or escaping. You hide away or escape from a situation or activity that might bring up uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. For example, you drop out of course or avoid going to a social function in order to prevent feeling of anxiety. Distractions: you distract yourself from your thought and feeling by focusing on something else. For example, you are feeling bored or anxious, so you smoke a cigarette or eat some ice cream or go shopping, or you are worried about some important issue at work, so you spend all night watching television to try to keep your mind off it. Zoning out or numbing: you try to cut off from your thoughts and feelings. By zoning out or marking yourself numb, most commonly through the use of medication. Fight strategies: suppressions. You try to directly suppress unwanted thought and feeling. You forcefully push unwanted thought from your mind, or you push your feeling deep down inside. Arguing: you argue with your own thoughts to try to disprove them rationally. For example, if your mind says you are a failure, you may argue back, "Oh no, I'm not. Just look at everything I have achieved in my work." Or you may argue against reality, protesting that it should not be like this. Taking charge: you try to take charge of your thoughts and feelings. For example, you may tell yourself things like, "Snap out of it, stay calm," or "cheer up," or you try to replace negative thoughts with positive one, or you to force yourself to be happy when you are not. Self-bullying: you try to bully yourself into feeling differently. You call yourself names like loser, idiot, or you criticize and blame yourself. Don't be so pathetic. You can handle this. Why are you being such a coward? You should know better than this. The problem with control. What's the problem with using methods like this to try to control your thoughts and feelings? The answer is nothing if you use them only in moderation. If you use them only in situations where they can work. If you using them does not stop you from doing the thing you value. If you are not too distressed or upset, if you are just feel dealing with a run-of-the-mill everyday stress, then deliberate attempt to control your thoughts and feelings are not likely to be a problem. In some situations, distraction can be a good way of dealing with unpleasant emotion. If you have just had a row with your partner and you are feeling hurt and angry, it could be helpful to distract yourself by going for a walk and burying your head in a book until you calm down. And sometimes zoning out can be beneficial. For example, if you are stressed and drained after a grueling day's work, falling asleep on a couch may be just a ticket to help you rejuvenate. However, control methods become problematic when you use them excessively. You use them in situations where they cannot work. Using them stops you from doing the thing you truly value. Using control excessively to varying degrees. Every one of us uses control strategies. I mean, who wouldn't prefer to do without some of the less enjoyable thoughts and feelings that crop up from time to time? And as we have seen, used in moderation, such as time control or no big deal. For instance, when I am feeling particularly anxious, I sometimes eat a bar of chocolate or some biscuit. This is basically a form of distraction and attempt to avoid some unpleasant feeling by focusing on something else. But because I don't do it excessively, it doesn't create a major problem in my life. I maintain a healthy weight. I don't give myself diabetes. Now, when I was in my early 20s, it was a different story. Back then, I ate a truckload of cakes and chocolate to try to avoid my anxiety. And as a result, I became seriously overweight and developed high blood pressure. It was exactly the same control strategy, but when I used it excessively, it clearly had serious consequences. If you are worried about upcoming exams, you may try to distract yourself from the anxiety by watching television. Now, that's fine if you are only doing it every now and then, but if you do it too much, you will spend all your evenings watching television and you won't get any studying done. This in turn will create more anxiety as your studies lag further and further behind. Therefore, as a method for anxiety control, distraction simply cannot work in the long run. And then there is the obvious. Dealing with anxiety in this way prevents you from doing that one thing that will be genuinely helpful: studying. The same goes for zoning out for with alcohol or drug, moderate drinking or taking the occasional drunk. Goal is not likely to have serious long-term consequences, but if such a control method becomes a crutch, it can easily lead to addiction, which then creates all sort of complication, giving rise to even more painful feeling. Notice that there is considerable overlap between these control strategies. Watching television instead of studying can be not only a distraction but also a hiding, escaping strategy. And television can also be used for zoning out. Some people may sit in front of their telly for hours on end, watching them without any genuine interest, trying to use control in situations where it cannot work. If you love somebody deeply and you lose that relationship, whether through death, rejection, or separation, you will feel pain. The pain is called grief. Grief is a normal emotional reaction to any significant loss, whether a loved one, a job, or a limb. There is no way to avoid or get rid of it. It's just there, and once accepted, it will pass in its own time. Unfortunately, many of us refuse to accept grief, and we will do anything rather than feel it. We may bury ourselves in work, drink heavily, throw ourselves into a new relationship, under rebound, or numb ourselves with prescribed medications. But no matter how hard we try to push grief away, deep down inside it's still there, and eventually it will be back. It's like holding a football ball underwater. As long as you keep holding it down, it stays beneath the surface, but eventually your arm gets tired, and the moment you release your grip, the ball leaps straight up out of the water. Donna was 25 years of age when her husband and child died in a tragic car crash. Naturally, she felt an enormous sense of loss and an explosion of painful feelings, including sadness, anger, fear, loneliness, and despair. But Donna could not accept this painful feeling and she turned to alcohol to push them away. Getting drunk will temporarily shut her pain, but once she sobered up, her grief returned with a fragrance, and then she would drink even more to push it away again. By the time Donna came to see me 6 months later, she was knocking back the bottle in a wine a day as well as some Valium and sleeping tablets. The single biggest factor in her recovery was her willingness to stop running away from her pain. Only when she opened herself to her feelings and accepted them as a natural part of the grieving process, she was able to come to terms with her terrible loss. This enabled her to grieve effectively for her loved one and channel her energy into building a new life. When using control stops us from doing what we value. What do you cherish most in life? Health, work, family, friends, religion, sport, nature? It's not surprising that life is richer and more fulfilling when we actively invest our time and energy in the things that are most important and meaningful to us. Yet all too often our attempt to avoid unpleasant feelings get in the way of doing what we truly value. For example, suppose you are a professional actor and you love your work, that then one day, quite out of the blue, you develop an intense fear of failure just as you are to appear on stage, so you refuse to go on. Refusing to go on stage may well reduce your fear temporarily, but it also stops you from doing something you truly value. Or suppose you have just gone through a divorce. Sadness, fear, and anger are all natural reactions, but you don't want to have the unpleasant feelings, so you try to lift your mood by eating junk food, getting drunk, or chain smoking cigarettes. But what does this do to your health? I've never met anyone who didn't value their health, and yet many people use control strategies that actively damage